Today is March 9th. We have Patton Fitzpatrick on the podcast. Before we get to that, we want to run through some things. Decky Surf's up. How are we?
Dude, Andy, excellence. We're having a blast, brother. What a day to be alive and what a day to have a phenomenal traditional Back Pocket podcast with Patton and SimBull. You're absolutely right. But yeah, let's get to a couple quick Back Pocket updates before we get going. We definitely got to tell everyone that we're a production company. So, hey, if you need any sort of production, podcast production, anything like that, our most recent episode that we just released kind of dives into that in terms of like what we think it takes to win in the podcast industry from our standpoint. But anyways, if you know anybody that wants to start a podcast, if you know any companies or different people that need help, we are there for you, as that is our initiative for 2021.
Amen to that, Decky. We're screaming it from the rooftops. Also, since we're a podcast production company, we have a couple podcasts out there that are under our umbrella. Straight Candid. We talk about it all the time. These two ladies, Sydney and Sophie. They are free reign, loose, and just so consistent. We love these ladies. They are winning in the podcast industry, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. They just had a crazy recent episode with Khadijah Cooper, and they've also been just recording themselves, and they just have an amazing dynamic. Definitely go check them out. But I'd also like to touch on our other production that we have going on that we haven't released any podcasts for, but the event itself is absolutely grand slamming. After 7 revisions, Back Pocket has officially figured out that the Date Night podcast has legs. And it all comes from this new series that we started. It's a speed dating series called The Kings and Queens. So, Andrew, would you like to do your best to give your best elevator pitch to date on what the Kings and Queens speed dating series is all about?
The Kings and Queens podcast, the Date Night podcast. We host it at First Draft every Wednesday night. And it, like Declan mentioned, it's a speed dating series. So if we have a king for the night and he's a straight king, we will line up 3 lovely ladies for him to have him speed date around 15, 20 minutes, high paced, good energy. We have our host T-Flow to kind of guide you along. But after those 3 dates, the king will have the opportunity to ask one of the lovely ladies to come back on the show and ask out to it for a second date. And don't feel like you're missing out if you fill out the form and you want to be a part of the Date Night podcast with this Kings and Queens series, and you don't get selected by a king, we would happily have you as a queen the following episode. So it's a full contribution. Everyone's a participant. It's a grand slam kind of night. And I mean, the energy that took place this past recording was through the roof. This is something special.
Yes, it absolutely is. And we're just like super stoked to continue to launch that. So if you are interested in either being a king or queen or wanting to try your hand in the speed dating world and be on this podcast, sign up. We have the link to sign up and fill out the form in the show notes of this very podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at _DNP. That stands for the Date Night Podcast. Again, it's at _DNP. Give us a rip. But before we talk about any more of this DNP and the Date Night Podcast, we have a very special guest today, Patton Fitzpatrick. He is a former St. Thomas teammate of ours. He was also a Gruden grinder, scout team player like the best of us here. He also played linebacker as well. So him and I were closely, we worked closely together throughout my 4 years there. So he started an awesome company though called SimBull, and it's basically the stock market for sports teams. We're going to dive in and talk all about sports betting, sports gambling, his new app, and how he's grown this to 30,000 users or something like that.
I think there's 1,000 total users, but the money that's being thrown around, I don't want to get too into it, but there's money being tossed around in the stock market right now.
Okay, sorry, 1,000 users, but the man's crushing, and we're just excited to get his story on and how they started all of this. So, anything else to say on Patton, Andrew, before we dive in here?
I love this kid. We'll probably get into it, but I was the recruiting guide for Patton when he came to St. Thomas. So right away, I was already pitching him, the Backpocket brand and what we do. And he's been a close follower through and through. Patton's a great dude. So without further ado, Let's hear from Patton Fitzpatrick. Today on the podcast, we have co-founder and great friend of the program, Patton Fitzpatrick. How you doing, man?
All good, guys. Appreciate you having me on here. Come on, catch up a little bit, talk about the good old days of St. Thomas football, and talk a little bit about SimBull as well.
Right on, dude. Got to start for any of the audio listeners who don't get the pleasure of joining us on YouTube. Is Patton is looking like a fucking snack over here. God bless. How much weight have you lost since football?
Probably 20 pounds, I'd say. So I'm about $180 now. A little smaller than my linebacker days, but got to get in shape that post college football life. So.
Yeah, you're looking at two guys who did the exact same thing. I know Decky's cut a lot more weight than I have, but I played football like 185, 190, and I'm walking around at 160, and I feel so much better.
Yep, I'm the same way. It's not gonna lie, it was nice to have to stop squatting and all that stuff and just switch over to losing some weight, doing some cardio. So.
Right, and it's so funny, like when you first go from like not eating 6,000 calories, not squatting, not bench pressing every day, not like heavy lifting and like busting your ass on the football field, and you go to like, oh, I'll go on a run, I'll go bike, I'll go freaking swim if I want to, like I'll go do things that like I enjoy doing just simply as a workout and take advantage of all the facilities and all the food they still give you. It's like you're gonna cut down and look like a snack in no time. Like I think that was my favorite part, like post like second semester senior year, when like you're walking around the athletic department and all the coaches see you and they're like, Declan, looking good, dude. You cut some weight. I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like, I don't know. I'm not keeping track of this shit. I'm just not doing what you used to tell me to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like, God, when we finished the season, I was so done with lifting and all that stuff. And like you said, I would just pick up basketball every night, and that kind of is my workout. And I didn't have to worry about hitting a bench max or a squat max. And that just kind of wasn't the guy I was. So I love, doing fun activities to try and lose that weight.
Amen to that. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today, because you are the epitome of a back pocket, like just marketing intern, a person who like just lives, breathes, eats what Back Pocket preaches. We already mentioned this right before the show, but you went through the same rigmarole that we did on the football field, where, the limelight was not on us. We had to grind and we had to find enjoyment and like the love of the game in a completely different way from all the starters, since we were grinding on the scout team. And I still remember you coming in as a recruit. And I was working that day as like the people walking the recruits around, and just to see you through the last 4 years, and now you're starting this business called SimBull, the sports exchange. It's just the coolest thing. This full circle moment. Now to have the ability to record this podcast and document our journey and our story is really dope.
Yeah, for sure. And I just wanted, before we get started with SimBull, I wanted to just say to you guys, like you talked about, we were the grinders, even though I was a couple of years behind you guys. Like, you were the ones I looked up to when we were playing, just because it's like we played with so many great players and they're all fantastic guys, and you look up to those guys. But with you guys, it's a different type of respect, because I went through that same thing where I'm sure you guys had that moment where sophomore, junior year, like, is this worth it? Like, do I want to keep going with it? And for me, you guys had graduated, but I look back and I'm like, well, like, Andrew and Declan stuck it out, and it seemed like the most rewarding thing at the time for you guys. And that's exactly kind of how I shaped my mentality with going into it. It's just put your head down and work, man. There's no way around it. And you may not be the most athletic guy, but hey, if you work hard, you'll stick through this whole thing at the end of it after 4 years. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that Andrew and I always kind of reflect on, I think you can relate to this, is like the idea that, we had to be extremely selfless. I mean, we weren't going to practice and grinding and like sweating our ass off and busting our ass on scout teams so that we could get a bunch of stacks on Saturday and be in this like sweet limelight. Like, a lot of it was just simply mental, like intrinsically, like, can I do this? Yes, I can. And then on the other side, it was like, I'm doing this for a bigger cause, and I'm doing it for a culture. I'm doing it for something that's much, much bigger than me. And I loved being a part of that. Like, I loved being within that, and that feeling of trying to help steer a ship that was far more powerful than you. and just the aspect of going through that situation and then really learning and getting humbled to a certain sense in that situation makes life seem so much easier in some senses.
Absolutely. And like you said, we're not the ones getting our name called on Saturday or getting that spotlight with all those sacks, but it's cool to be a part of a team. And, you know, the outside world may look at it and say, who is this guy? Or he's a backup or he's a scout team guy. But to us, it's knowing that you did play a pivotal role and the coaching staff made it feel like that and your teammates made it feel like that. And that's kind of all the reward you need. You don't need that spotlight, but knowing you contributed to some awesome seasons is what made it all worth it.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, the game I miss a ton, but what I really miss is that community of 120 guys working for a common goal and having like that week after week instant gratification of, okay, this is the hard work I put in through for 4 days. And then we performed on Saturday and we won. You saw it right away. And now we're in like this work life that it takes so much time and energy. You have to use that same mindset where like the limelight isn't on us. We're entrepreneurs. We're trying to figure out this business plan to make money and to pay our bills. And, you know, those small wins you have to look at in completely different way. It's not a W on a Saturday. It's more so connecting with a friend and trying to help his business grow like that. Those are the wins that we're able to find. So using like that mindset is extremely difficult. And it was so simple in the game of football, but now trying to apply that into life. I was just talking with Mark Amick and a couple other guys at TIFFs the other day. And we were just sitting there like, man, I just wish I could have that quick win. You know, you practice so fucking hard on flowing and going Thursday, Friday, you get your rest, and then you win on Saturday. And it's like, okay, now I go party. And it's just it's not the same anymore.
For sure. There's definitely, like you said, there's the game I miss and that rewarding part where every Saturday you get that W and it's instant gratification, which is something you can't replicate anywhere else, especially once you're done playing football. But there's also pieces of it that you learn with the hard work and all of that stuff that you take into the next job because of what we had in that locker room and those guys that we became friends with and hang out with and play games with and practice with and all of that stuff. Those are the ones that kind of instilled that hard work in you. So while the instant gratification isn't always there, it is nice to take the little bits and pieces that you learned about outworking everyone, whether that's within the program or the teams that we would play. It's all, you know, translates until after you're done playing football.
Yeah, totally. And speaking on that, in terms of like what you learned from the field and that aspect of outworking people, were there any, we call them Carusoisms, different things that Caruso kind of just instilled in us, that we kind of just innately believe in and live out? Were there any Carusoisms or lessons learned that you apply in your day-to-day with SimBull or just in your life in general?
Yeah, there's a million of them, but one that stuck with me was after my sophomore year. So it was in the spring, and I'll never forget it. It stuck with me this whole time. He was telling a story about his son Truman not making the baseball team and came home crying and was all upset. And basically, he sat him down. He said, listen, you may not be the best baseball player, but if you're going to be willing to outwork and outlast everyone, there's literally no way they can get rid of you. Like if you're just have a refusal to not quit, that's going to last you and you'll be the last man standing. So that's something I've taken with me, whether that's SimBull or anything else I do. I'm never going to be the smartest guy in the room. I'm never going to be the most athletic, but if I'm just willing to work, show up early, leave late, do whatever you're asked, and may not be the most glorious stuff, but if you're able to kind of stick around and go through that, you'll last in the long run and you'll be the last man standing. There's going to be people smarter than you. There's going to be people more athletic than you in sports. And it's one of those things, hey, I'm not going to quit. Transfer comes in, it's going to take my spot, or there's some freshman who's going to come in and take my spot. Like, no, you're going to have to fight me for it. And you might win in the end, but hey, I'll still be standing right here ready to go when you know, I'm called upon. So.
That's phenomenal, dude. I mean, Caruso just instilled a belief in ourselves that not many other coaches. I didn't have the pleasure of having coaches growing up that instilled like confidence. It was more so like beat you down and they expect you to perform. And they never flipped it and promoted you. So cheers to that, dude. And when you, and remind me, so when you graduated, what was that first move out of college?
I was working in billing for an airline company, which sounds like the most boring job on earth, and it wasn't very exciting. So I did that, and then obviously COVID hit. And SimBull was kind of in the works at this point, but right now I was able to kind of combine two things that I love. So we were working on SimBull, and then I also went into coaching. So I got a job at a high school or at a college, pretty close to my house in Chicago, and so I was able to do that. That really picked me up, just being around that team culture and that community. And then it also allowed me the freedom to work on SimBull in that time that I had to do it.
Gotcha. So you graduated in 2020?
I did. Yep. Last spring. So.
Holy smokes. How was that? Like, what was that? You didn't have in-person classes for the last 3 months after having almost full 4 years of it.
Yep. It was different. Like I'll never forget it. We were starting to hear about it in February, and St. Thomas, I will say that they always did a good job with Zoom, like even before COVID was a thing. And so we started kind of talking about it in class, like just in case something happens, is how we're going to transition. So in class, it wasn't too hard transitioning to Zoom, but like just the way it all went down with, like, we went out for St. Patrick's Day in St. Paul to McGovern's, and we're hanging out. We're like, should we go? Should we not? We decided to. Spring break was like in 2 weeks. We had a trip planned down to Florida, and yeah, like we go out that Saturday, Sunday, recover, and then Monday, like boom, everything happened. NBA canceled, March Madness canceled, and it all just kind of hit. And it was like, it was so weird because nobody knew what was going on, and there was a lot of panic and a lot of fear about it. And, you know, you just kind of had to adjust to it. There wasn't much you could do, but it did suck. Like, playing football was awesome, but it's also fun having that final semester to kind of send you off, and your last semester at college in your first semester where you don't have football. But yeah, we didn't really get to enjoy that whole part of it. It was cool to hang out in Minneapolis and enjoy Zoom class, and hang out with my roommates. But yeah, it was just bizarre. And I wouldn't wish my senior year ended that way, but it did. And there's not much you can do about it. So.
Yeah, you pretty much got to still show up and get to work, right? I mean, that's
right.
Kind of the mindset. And it's funny, like, COVID has beat so many damn people down and put so much fear into other people. And like, just looking back at like yourself or any of our friends, and like I would say even us, like to a certain degree, like we just kind of kept battling and just like kept finding the most efficient path to like happiness and fulfillment. And look at where we're at, man. I mean, it's so funny because I was just talking to a couple people about it and like their jobs and all these different things about being remote. And there's lingering emails out there with like, hey, we're thinking about having people back in the office once the vaccine comes around, and like all these different things. And everyone's like, I don't want to go back. Like, I don't want to go back. And I knew this was going to fucking happen. Like, I knew all these people were going to like complain about it when it first happened, but they now are complaining that they got to go back to where they were.
Right. Right.
I just think it's really funny, but kudos to you, man, for, taking the positive route, taking the effort or the aspect of like, I'm just going to put my head down and continue to grind. And I love that, man. I think that's freaking awesome. But so when you graduated and you were kind of in this limbo, when did like SimBull kind of come into play? Like, what was the first impetus of like, oh, this could be a company / like this idea, and this could really become a full-on real life concept?
Yeah, so it was honestly all pre-COVID. My co-founder and my roommate at the time, KJ, was a phenomenal dude. We were sitting on the couch and we were drinking beer, and we had the Bengals were playing somebody late in the NFL season, and I think we bet on the Bengals for some reason or whatever. And we're sitting there watching the game, and we're like, they're going to stink this year, and I'm not going to put out a 3 or 4 year future on them and wait that long. But they're 1-11. Joe Burrow is pretty good at LSU. Like, it's a shoe-in. So what if you could find a way to buy them now and hold on to that for when they get Joe Burrow and they build that team and, cash out at the end of it and make some big bucks off of it. So that was just like the start of the idea. And then we went through winter and then the spring of our senior year of college, just kind of talking about it. Here's an idea. We could do this. We could go this way. And there's a million different things you can do with it. But it kind of came to fruition when COVID hit. We're like, we got some time here. Let's start thinking about this seriously. So our other co-founder who we brought on, Dallas, he was a computer programmer, lived in Denmark at the time, getting his master's degree. And KJ went to high school with him. So we reached out to him, and he was giving us tips at first. And we're like, well, let's talk to him about bringing him on. And he wanted to get into it. So we brought him on and built the website. And this was transitioning from that spring into this last summer. And we built the website out. We're like, well, let's give it a test run. So texted a bunch of our buddies, like, hey, if we gave you $200 in this sports stock market, and we play Madden and sim these games, like, you guys can buy and sell shares of each team and predict which one you think will win the Super Bowl and cash out at the end. And we just kind of wanted to see the functionality of the website. So we built it out that way. It was a huge success just with our friends and family doing it. And we said, NFL's coming up. Let's do it full go. So that's when we launched it, became a company and started doing everything. So.
Wait, so let me get this straight. Your beta test was a Madden simulated season?
That was it. Yeah, I sat there on my Xbox and I simmed up all 32 teams, the entire schedule for this upcoming season that just finished, and simmed to the end, wrote the score down, let everybody who was in the market know, and see how the market went with trading and everything. And that was pretty much it. And it worked out super well. So fixed some kinks. We're on a new website now, which I can get more into later. But yeah, and it was a huge success. So we launched for the actual NFL season. And it was even an even bigger hit. So
that's insane, man. So when you're like starting this and you're in the early creation, you're sitting here in Minnesota and sports gambling is illegal. And I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind, but this is a totally different twist on it. Care to like walk our listeners into, that kind of story behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, as easy as I can put it, SimBull is a stock market for sports teams. You can buy and sell shares of your favorite teams. And along the way, per each share that you have, as they win games, you get a win payout. So if you're into stocks, it's kind of like a dividend payout. And if you're not into stocks, we say SimBull is a great way for you to learn financial literacy, because everybody has a friend who's like, buy this stock, or this company is going to be huge. It's worth 50 cents now, but buy a bunch of shares. And it's like, I didn't know much about stocks. I don't know. And, but everybody knows sports, or everybody thinks they do. So the best example I can give is, let's say you buy the Vikings, one share for $20. You buy them at the beginning of the season. They have a phenomenal year, win a bunch of games. Most likely the market will react to that and say, I like the Vikings too. More people are going to buy, that price drives up. The Vikings finished the season at $30 a share. You just profited $10 off of one NFL season on one share. So if you had 10 shares of the Vikings, that's an even higher number. And the nice thing is too, if the Vikings had won 12 games that year, you got $6 in win payouts. So off an original $20 investment, you made the 10 that value grew to when you sold it, and you add that $6 on top of that from the 12 wins. So $16 profit on one share. So the key is you can diversify and find different teams and different leagues. And we have NFL, we have NBA, we have MLB, kind of diversify your portfolio and find those low value teams that are going to drive up that price and sell them at the end of it. But yeah, it's as simple as I can put it. It's been pretty cool for us to do this and see how the market reacts to everything. And the values have been amazing. So after this NFL season, we went back and kind of calculated, okay, if you were to gamble against the spread for all 32 NFL teams versus buy them on SimBull, your return would actually be greater for every single team on SimBull. Plus you get those win payouts at the end of it.
No way. That's super fucking cool, man. And I love, like, you starting this within 2020, or having the concept for a little, like, pretty much a year. Your elevator pitch and your literacy and like the communication in which you're like telling people what this is, like, it's phenomenal. Like, it's very good. I'm very impressed. And
Thank you.
If I'm picking up on it, Andrew and I are fucking clicking, that means our listeners are too, man. So I gotta just commend you for being able to be the salesman that you are, man. I think that's fucking sweet.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's like I said, like, it's as simple as I can put it, because people know about stocks, or you don't, or you kind of do, but it does get confusing. Like it was like that for me in high school and college, but when you put it in terms of sports teams, like, kind of dumbs it down for you, even though it's the exact same concept. So we just think it makes it easier for a lot of people to understand what they're buying and what they're selling, when to buy, when to sell, and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another question I had, just as a math guy, these are theoretical prices that you're putting, or correct me if I'm wrong if it's not theoretical, but how do you determine the share value or the stock price of these different sports teams? And then how are you adjusting their price value based on their performance on the field?
Yeah, so basically at the start of each season, so NFL, NBA, and MLB, we did an ISO, so an initial share offering. And we reached out to a bunch of people on social media, people who were in the market already, and said, hey, this is the day you can buy them at their set price. So basically, we went back and we looked at their win totals over the last 5 years and averaged out to a number right around, I think we started out at like the Jets were 14 and the Chiefs were $30, somewhere in between there. And then we went back and we said, this is when we're launching them at these initial prices. You can buy them here. But the shares were controlled. So there were 20 for each team. So once those shares sold out, it's completely up to the users now. So like the stage we're at right now in all three sports, those ISOs have launched, and it's all based on supply and demand of the market. So a team might win, like the Utah Jazz just won 17 of their last 18, and they didn't increase as much as you would think. Or like the Tampa Bay Bucks were, I don't know, like 8th or 9th in the market for price, even though they just won the Super Bowl. It just depends on what other users in the market think about those teams. It's not, if you win games, that share price automatically goes up. If teams are winning games, people are going to like them and they're going to start purchasing them, and that price goes up, or vice versa. It's just kind of interesting to see the trends of the market. But yeah, once those shares are all bought originally, we don't touch the prices. It's all up to our users. So
this is perfect timing. I mean, I know you just listened to it, but we had Devin Winter on the podcast diving into the stock market and, going from people just starting off and wanting to start trading to people that might have been doing it for 10 years and haven't found success. And, the advice he gave for the rookies is, start with the S&P 500 and do some paper trading, all this stuff. And I'm sitting here like, oh, screw, I'm not going to get into that. I'm starting with SimBull Sports Exchange, and that's how I'm going to learn the market.
There you go. Yeah, you could do both. So I know Devin gave you guys access to 6-4 trading, but yeah, feel free to do both. But it is like there's different ways you could trade. So obviously you're going to have to spend a little more for the Chiefs or the Lakers. Or the Dodgers and all of those sports, but you're basically guaranteed those win payouts because the Chiefs are going to win 12-something games a year, and the Dodgers are going to win 100 games in baseball. So that's one way to do it, or you can just look for good values. Like I'm from Chicago, I'm a Bulls fan, so the Bulls started out pretty low. They haven't been good over the last 5 years, but hey, they're playing great right now, and I could have bought them to start the year around $15 and ride that out, and the market's going to like them too. They're a young team, new management, and it's kind of taking in all those factors of, do I like the coach? Do I like the front office? Do I like the team? Are they young? Are they old? How good are they going to be for how long? So you can hold that for one season. Or going back to the Vikings example, let's say the Vikings didn't have a good year when you bought them at $20 and they didn't go up much in value, or they lost a little bit of value. You can hold on to them for the year. It's an unlimited market. You can trade at any hour of the day. So we're not going to sit here and say you have to sell after each season. Like, hold on to the Vikings for 5 years if you like Mike Zimmer and think Kirk's going to turn around or get better within the next 5 years and sell them off after that. It's all up to you. And then the other approach is you can day trade too. So look at a couple teams and say, these 3 NBA teams have an easy week of a schedule, and you buy them, and you're probably not going to make much on that value return when you sell them again, but you're going to win those win payouts if you know they're going to win. So there's a bunch of different ways to approach it.
Yeah, day trading in the MLB feels like a hot commodity. That will be a blast.
Yeah, we're excited for that. We just launched it last week, and there's still time to get in on it. Actually, this Sunday, we're offering all teams at a 5% discount. So get them at a good price and a little bit discounted, and then trading will start 2 Mondays from now. So yeah, we're excited about that. But yeah, that's going to be the best one because there's, a bunch of games going on each day. They play every day. So it's going to be cool.
Going back to like the early creation of SimBull, when you started telling your friends and family about what you're up to and, all this having to do with the stock market, any negative reactions from people close to you being like, what are you doing here, man? Like, this sounds pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, my mom was always worried. She'd be like, is this gambling? Is this legal? Like, what, all these questions about it, because she doesn't know much about stocks or gambling in general. And I'm like, well, it's not gambling because you really can't lose. The only way you lose is if you put money in a team with this value and decide to sell them at that point. but yeah, you're not betting on a specific outcome where, you know, if a team wins, you win money. And if a team loses, you lose money. It's just, you put your money in and ride it out for as long as you want. So kind of had to convince her with that. And then for the most part, like with people who are sports fans or who have gambled at all, like it's been a big success just talking to them, because like I said, it simplifies the stock market. And it's just a different way to look at a way you can make money off of sports and profit in the long run, where it's not playing a riskier game of gambling. And like, I go back to that story with me and KJ betting on the Bengals game. And like, we went back and looked at it. We're like, I made $7 this year, like gambling, and maybe I'm a shitty gambler or just maybe that's how it is. It's rigged in the sportsbook's favor. So we wanted to create a more profitable way to make that money in the long run. So.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned just right now, the long run, like if you are just a passionate sports fan, like we're still going to bet Bengals money line on a Thursday. Like that, there's a degenerate side in us that will always like find a way to do that dumb shit. But like adding this SimBull exchange to your portfolio of just like, I'm betting Bengals money line tonight, but I'm also like a Bengals rider underneath, and I'm here for the long game and for the next 5 years of being a Bengals fan.
Right.
I love that we're using the Bengals as an example.
Yeah, that was just honest to God. I forget who they were playing, but they were like 1-11 at that point, and we were watching that game. We're like, Joe Burrow just won a national championship. Like, could be a good investment.
Right. So you mentioned ISOs earlier, and initial share offerings. Yeah. So ISOs. Are there any upcoming like deep dark web sports ISOs that we can get our hands on? Like, are we doing any sort of soccer, European soccer, maybe Japanese baseball? Some that Andrew and I can wet the beak on right away.
Yeah, we have some. I have some buddies who are big KBO bettors, so Korean Baseball League and KBL. So they stay up late and text about all of those games. And right now we just have NBA, MLB, and NFL, but we are thinking about expanding some other sports. So NHL within the year. And then we'd love to get into like Premier League soccer. It'd be a little different way to do it, but that market is massive, and we'd love to do that. And then other ideas too down the road, like esports. They're taking off right now, and every city's getting their professional team. So we'd love to find a way to combine SimBull with what they're doing. But as far as, you know, dark web buys that you guys can find, I can't recommend those. But, you know, I'm a big baseball fan, so gonna ride with my Cubbies. They're pretty. They were a hot team when we released the ISOs, but they're not too bad of a price, so you could get in on them. I think they're gonna surprise some people. And it pains me to say it, but the White Sox as well. They're a young team and got a lot of talent, so you could get in on them low, ride them out, and see how well they do. So.
That's incredible. How many active users do you have on SimBull right now?
Yeah, we're at 200. So we have 200 people who have deposited into the market. So it's been really good for our growth.
Yeah. And when did you kind of realize that this thing, so you believed in it and your friends and family could see it happening in front of you, it's working, when and you're still in the earliest stages of it. So this is like a really cool podcast because we can document where you're at right now. You're going to look back in 5 years and be like, holy smokes, we accomplished this much.
Sure.
When was there a point, or has there been a point where you're like, this is going to be my career, this is something pretty special?
Yeah, there's been several points. So like I talked about after that Madden sim, just to kind of see how it went, or like, I think we're ready to take this on with real money deposited and reaching out to people that we know and doing some DMing and advertising on social media, and started there after that Madden sim. We're like, let's do this. So we did it. And me and my two co-founders were just doing it part-time and kind of managing it. And then as it started growing, we're like, this is a real thing. So around January, my buddy KJ and then our other co-founder Dallas, they decided to quit their jobs full-time. I still do coaching, but they decided to go all in on it. And that was a huge step for them, kind of taking a leap of faith and quitting their jobs that were really solid jobs right out of college and going all in. So that's when it really hit, was this January, where it's like, we're doing this full-time, like this is sink or swim. Let's go all the way. We don't have time to just do it part-time or do it as something that we do for fun. Now's the time to do it. So let's capitalize on it.
Right on. And I commend that as two guys, you know, who are still hustling Backpocket on the side. You know, like that's a major commitment, and like we just commend you on that. Like the fact that KJ and the other guy are doing that, it's just freaking nuts. And I wish you guys nothing but the best. So we're at 200 users right now, sitting in at the end of February/March. What does your model for like you like trying to increase users? Like maybe we open it up to a little think tank right now on how we can get some more users to SimBull.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first step is getting here on the back pocket and trying to push SimBull a little bit and let you guys know what it's all about, because I do think that your listeners are, the marketing interns are exactly what we're looking for. People who like sports, people who like gambling, people who are just, everyday average Joes who want to get in on it. So that's step one. And then it's been a lot of boots on the ground kind of work where we're DMing people. We're setting up, affiliate deals with some other podcasts and some other social media sites who write about sports. And we have some guys who write blogs for us. We're big on TikTok. We have a bunch of people who do some TikToks for us about the market, and just kind of doing that. But as we grow, we'll kind of take on some bigger marketing campaigns just to get the word out there. And once the world opens up too, maybe travel to a few games and push some promos in person and do all of that stuff. So all options are on the table. If you guys got any ideas, I'd love to hear it. So.
Yeah, I would try and get females involved in any way. Chicks get clicks, just works. So any way you can try and get females involved in sports betting, it's I don't know how well it's worked in the past, but all I know is the chicks get clicks model is just a very effective model for just driving sheer awareness. And I like your thought with, or I like your affiliate marketing idea too. I think that'll really play. But like what's so interesting right now is sports betting is more popular than it's ever been. It's starting to become super normalized. Like everybody and their mom's doing it. Like part of me is like, you got to just show up to like a couple different frats and just be like, hey, I'm giving you guys all free deals, affiliate deals, and I want all you guys just signing up and doing this, and just go to like every frat at the U and see if these boys are interested. Like just start a spark of something like that, and see what happens, man. I think you just got to get into the hands of the average Joes like us who are degenerate sports gamblers.
For sure. Yeah, that's the plan, man. Once everything starts opening back up, hit up those frat parties, go to the bars outside of Wrigley and hand out free promos where you can get free shares and all that stuff. So it's all in the works. We're just kind of waiting on everything to open back up here. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with word of mouth advertising. It's been our best so far. So we love doing that stuff.
Absolutely. I think
just out of curiosity, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you could sponsor like a beer pong tournament too. Like I'm just thinking of like low budget parties you could throw. Like we threw a keg party and had beer koozies with our logo on it. Sold those for $5. But like throwing like a beer dye tournament would be fucking dope. Throwing like any sort of like drinking game where you know that people like us are gonna be there. Just slapping your logo there, being in the scene. And just being around the area, like you said, with handing out flyers and stuff at Cubs games. Like, I think you guys pitch a tent and come up with like a random way to just get people's attention on the side of the road and showcase. Like if you brought it like this, here's another funny idea that just came to mind. If you have people flooding out of or just flooding around Wrigleyville, and you set up a fucking tent and set up a Madden stream. And then just sourced as like one guy's a bookie who's like super like engaged with the people. If you could get fucking people to show up and bet like live bet Madden simulations on an Xbox, and you guys like just sit there and watch people do that, throw the SimBull tag above it, like just be unique, man. I think that's really what I'm getting at. Like you guys are in such a fun stage where it's like you don't have a marketing budget to like throw $1 billion at and start saying, okay, we spend this much money and through our funnels we get about a 7 or 8% return rate. I don't know if that's good or not, but I'm just using that as an example. Like you guys are in the perfect position where it's like you have to be creative, you have to be unique, and you have to find ways to turn heads. So that's why I opened up the think tank for myself, honestly, but I just wanted
Right. I love it. Well, maybe we could do like a Backpocket SimBull sponsored frat party or keg or something like that. But no, I love it, man. I wrote it all down, so I'll take it up the ladder as soon as we get off here. And yeah, we got it.
I think you're onto something special there, Deck, especially with the simulation of any sports game. I don't know how many nights
Yep.
that the boys in college threw on Madden or 2K and then just hit demo or whatever and just played a simulation. None of us were a controller of any player. And then we just gambled on one of the teams and live bet certain plays and stuff. Like that stuff gets the people going, and you just put your logo behind it. You rally some
Yep.
crew. That is just small potato momentum that will lead to something that you didn't expect.
For sure. I love it, man. All of it. Yeah. I get late night shell games going where you simulate NHL or Madden. Yeah. I think it's a great idea. So we'll have to put it into the works.
Yeah,
And
dude,
just
run it up the ladder. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
And just out of curiosity, well, how did you come up with the name SimBull? Like what's the story behind that?
Yeah. So before we go into it, it's SimBull. So people don't get confused. Basically we did the Madden sim and we're like, the simulated market. So let's go with sim and then bull, like a bullish market. You're bullish on all of these teams and all of these stocks, and pretty simple. We contacted a graphic designer, drew up the logo for us and took off from there. So
that's
I love
phenomenal.
that, man.
Super creative.
Super freaking cool. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Like what's it look like getting new like sports or anything like that into your market? Like I'm already thinking college football coming up next year. Like is there any way you could capitalize on university?
Yeah, we're definitely looking into all options. So because it's happened so quick, we went NFL and then we're like, we're ready for the NBA. Let's add another sport. And it was a huge success. And then, like I said, baseball after, and that was a big success. And for now, we've talked about NHL within the coming year. And I said Premier League. College would take a little more research just because of, one, the players' rules, and then two, even though you're buying teams, there's so many of them. So it could make it a little difficult, but there are ways to do it. And we're looking into those avenues and trying to figure out how we could make it so it's an even and a fair and efficient market with that. But yeah, all those sports, like I said, Premier League and then NHL, and it's all on the list. And that's what we're trying to grow to. Like I said, esports earlier and all those professional sports. It's something we want to look into. It's something we want to add. Golf's a big one we've talked about, and we're not sure how to quite do it yet, but we think it could be a big hit, especially on major Sundays like the Masters or the US Open. And we think it'd be awesome for us. So we'd love to give it to our users, and it's all in the works right now. It's just kind of knocking down one at a time and then moving on to the next one.
Dude, get golf involved because I'm hopping on Tony Finau. He's gonna get his turn. That man keeps losing tournament after tournament, but I believe in him. Jordan Spieth's fighting around right now. He's competing.
Yeah.
There's so many. I love golf. I'm watching golf every weekend. So if you get that incorporated into somehow we can start gambling on the stock of players, specific players, that'd be crazy. Any big wins so far, like someone investing in the NBA or NFL early and a team completely flip their season around, and some people are already seeing big returns?
Yeah. It goes up and down with a bunch of different teams every week. I'm trying to think. Let me pull up the market real quick. So like in the NFL,
that's such a sick brag, by the way. Just I'm gonna pull up the market real quick.
Yeah.
And if you find any wins, feel free to screen share.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. There we go. Yeah, so we go to the trade block, and you can just kind of track all of these teams that are being traded. So, hey, news of I know you're a Steelers fan, Andrew, and Declan, you're a Broncos fan, but I'm a huge Bears fan. News of Russell Wilson broke this morning. We could see right here, the Sim Bears are up 6.57% on the day as soon as that news broke. So you can track all the trades going on in the market. Just a bunch of different stuff you can look at. Like you can track how each team's doing. So let's go to the NFL and say, I don't know, let's find the Vikings. So we'll go down here. You can see what they've been sold for and bought for, and then you can scroll down and show the graph, and they had kind of an up and down year, but they ultimately ended up finishing off pretty decent. So started off at 18-21, whole season goes on, start out hot, lose a couple games in a row, maybe win some, just kind of depends how the market reacts. And we get all the way down here. You know, if you had them on February 10th, they dropped to $14 and could have sold them up to today, and they're up to $23. So that's a nice return you got right there. What's that?
Yeah, this is all off season right now too.
Yeah, exactly. So it just kind of depends on what a buyer wants to do. Like I said, you could trade on a random Thursday in February if you want. Like we know for NFL specifically, like draft day is going to be huge for us. Just because like everybody thinks their team got better on draft day. So just kind of weeding out the ones who are actually going to be better. So like Jacksonville right now, they were terrible last year and their price was pretty low all year, but like I'm buying if you're buying Trevor Lawrence, you know, I think that could be a great pick for people. So
I'm seeing the Steelers extremely low.
Yeah, the Steelers, the market was not too kind to them this year. Yeah, so we'll
Wow.
So what they start 14-0?
11-0, and then they stunk.
11-0, and just kind of went on, and they tanked, man. People weren't buying the Steelers, and then Big Ben made his announcement that he might be coming back, and I think that just hurt him. So
yeah, we don't. I mean, I love Big Ben, but man, his time is over. Sorry, brother.
Time. Yep.
Oh, I missed the Russell Wilson news. What was that?
Basically, he said today that he's not leaving Seattle, but he did give them a list of teams if they're going to trade him who he wants to be traded to. And it was like the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Bears, and the Saints. So happy to be on a list. People were saying on Twitter that this is like a top 5 quarterback moment in Bears history because of our luck. So I'll tell you, Russell Wilson saying he wants to be traded to us, that gets me going a little bit. So
that's incredible, man.
That's sick. I love that there's like, I love how I can see now the day trading aspect of this app will be very fun. Like just buying and trading during the draft would just be a bananas time.
Yep.
The market's all user controlled, and and we have 200 users controlling the market. So this is going to be like, if you're wanting to get in early and just have some fucking fun with it. I feel like now is for sure the time to do it.
Yeah, so, absolutely. There's been over like 100,000 in trading volume. So those people who have deposits had put a lot of money into it. But like you said, like now's the time to get in because as more people join, the teams are going to become more valuable and the market's going to get bigger and get a little more efficient. So it's going to be pretty cool. Like within this next year or two, like people hopping into it and getting in on the ground floor and kind of riding it out however they want to, long term, short term, all of that stuff.
So one more thing on that, while we're talking about, getting in on the ground floor, what are the requirements? How does one wildly average person get in on the ground floor for the SimBull app?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you go to www.simbull.app. And then if you want to use your boy's referral code, just /Backpocket, and you'll get $10 free for the referral. And so will the boys. So that's SimBull. So SimBull.app. You log in, you just have to be 18 or older. It's legal in all 50 states. So create an account, which is free. And that gives you access to our analysis tab as well, where we write content about certain teams, how they're performing in the market. We have mock drafts up there, all of that stuff. And then we have some affiliates who write articles for us as well. So you can check all of that out. And then just move on over to the deposit tab. You deposit that in and put your money in and start trading. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Sweet. I love that, man. That sounds like a phenomenal way to start, and I'm definitely going to start doing that.
Awesome, man. Looking forward to having you.
Yeah, we're definitely going to clip that out, and we're blasting that across all of our social platforms. That was an incredible. I mean, Declan already complimented you already, but now it's my turn. That was a great pitch. That was clean. It was concise, and at the end of the day, SimBull.app /Backpocket and use that referral code because we're all winning at that point.
Absolutely. You win, we win. win. Yep, everybody wins. Love
Everyone's winning here, baby. So transitioning to the back end of our conversation here, we ask our core questions that we ask all of our guests on the show, starting with the average quality. I mean, we've walked through our story alone on the football field, embracing who we are and trying to get better at that each day, and be a better football player. But I'm curious to hear on your end, what's your average quality? What's something that you're working on every day to get a little bit better at?
Yeah, for me, it's not caring what others think. And it's not like in a motivational sense where like somebody's hating on SimBull, or back when we were playing football, somebody's hating on my game or something like that. Like that doesn't motivate me. That gives me anxiety when I have to make a decision and I say like, well, what will this person say? Or what will my parents think? Or what will my friends think? It creates a lot of stress. So it's something I've been working on, especially with kind of taking this leap of faith for SimBull. It's like, live your own life, make those decisions on how it makes you feel and what makes you happy, rather than saying, hey, if I do this, then somebody's going to be upset about it. Like, don't worry about that. Just worry about yourself, worry what you can do, work hard at it. And it was something, especially in college, that would kind of drag me down. And I'd be, looking over my shoulder saying, what's this person going to think about what I'm doing or what I say? And now I'm at the point I'm getting better at it and still trying to work at it every day. But it's like, make decisions for yourself. It's your life. And it's cliche to say you only got one, but live it. Make those decisions for you. So it's definitely my average quality, and still not good at it, but it's something I'm definitely working on.
I love that. That is just phenomenal. And it's just a great mentality to have. Like you said, it's served you well, and it's eliminated a lot of this anxiety of like worrying about what other people are going to think. I do want to say, like, it's just, it's one of those things that's just not easy to do often, because there's so many influences on your life, on different things going on. And sometimes you can get caught up in what you think is going to give you happiness, or you think that like this might be the right, like you start evaluating all these different paths based on like happiness even, at least for my sense, and that even builds anxiety. And so what I try and focus on is just like lay this perfect brick every single day, take that best step forward, try and operate as much in the present moment as you possibly can, and understand that as you continue to do that, as you start to make these decisions, and as you start to work towards different goals of like 400 users, 600 users, bringing in the NHL, bringing in the Premier League, understand like the decisions and the feeling you're going to have when those things are accomplished, your perspective at that time is going to be totally different. When you realize that your perspective and your decision making from that, when you get to that point, is going to be different, then you should never even spend more time thinking past that. There's mentalities that I think like you're bringing up with just not giving a shit what other people think. That's actually going to be an energy source that's going to take you through that next step, and that take you through those next perspectives that you're going to gain. So I love that that's front of mind for you. And I love that's your average quality.
It's super refreshing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just, loved what you said there, Deck. Like, it's one day at a time. That's all you can do. And you're going to look back 5 years from now and say, wow, I made a lot of mistakes and wish I didn't do that. Or maybe you learn from it, but it's right now in this present moment. I don't have to worry about something in the future. I can focus on that and conquer that one battle per day. And then it builds and it becomes something great. So
yeah, that one battle per day, facing it head on, it's stressful and it builds anxiety. And this is the perfect transition for the next question: is what's in your back pocket in these moments when pressure turns into stress and anxiety is rising? What do you have in your back pocket, Patton, that helps you overcome these situations?
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys know what's coming, but it's hard work. Like, really, there's nothing more to it. I said it before, I'm not the smartest guy. I wasn't the best athlete playing football, but hey, you're going to have a tough time beating me, because I'm always going to be there, and I'm always going to be going at it 100% and trying my best. And it's what I rely on. I've been put in some tough situations in sports and other things my entire life. And, I don't sit back and say, why does this happen to me? Or this is somebody else's fault, and try and point a finger at them. This is the situation that you have right now, and I'm going to white knuckle my way through this and get through it. That's just my mentality. It always has been. And it's gotten me pretty far so far. And just kind of taking that into me with future endeavors.
Love that, man. And I love that that's a fuel source to just kind of keep you going forward and get you hyped up. Speaking of getting hyped up, I'd like to know your favorite Coach K speech from your 4 years at St. Thomas. Just to give the listeners and the marketing interns some context here, Coach K was our defensive coordinator at St. Thomas when we played football, and the guy had just the craziest pregame speeches. And we actually had him on the podcast not too long ago. And my senior year, I actually recorded every single one of his speeches and then mixed it into a song and then played that for Coach K live on the podcast, and he cried. It's like one of the coolest podcast moments of history. What episode is it, Andrew?
Episode 179.
Definitely go check that out. It's worth your time. But I'd like to know what your favorite Coach K speech is, Patton.
You guys talked about Carusoisms earlier, and he's got a bunch of great ones that are stuck in my head. And I would argue Coach K has even more, especially with all of us being defensive players. But the one speech that I always go back to was he was telling the story about when he was growing up, he was a little punk to his older brother, and they didn't get along, and he'd rat on him to his parents and all of this stuff. And one day some kid was picking on him, and they were in motor class, he said, in high school, and some kid was picking on Coach K. His older brother comes out, and he said he grabbed the kid's hat, he like slammed him into the car or whatever, and just knocked him out. And I die laughing at that every time. And it's funny, one of my best friends from St. Thomas, Ben Stanley, who you guys know well, the way Coach K started that story was, he's like, me and my friends were walking around, and this kid who was in my older brother's grade pulls up on us, and he steals my LA Kings jacket. And they just pause. He's like, it was fucking sweet. And then he just like goes right back into the story. So sometimes I'll see Ben and we'll just say to each other, like, LA Kings jacket, fucking sweet. But that is my all-time favorite story. And he's got a million of them, but that one tops them all.
Yeah, and I think he ties it back together and says something like, stand up for the people you care about. And I think his older brother eventually got kicked out of school for this because he threw him into the car radiator or something extreme.
Yep.
And then, but he's like,
yeah,
and he's like telling us to fight for your brothers on the football field using this example. And we're all sitting in the back like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's just, you cannot beat him. The other one, if I have time for one more, was at the banquet. I don't know if I remember if it was yours, but he was telling this story about, like, he has this reoccurring dream of some kid walking through the quad, and he just tackles him into the fountain. And I don't remember the moral of the story, but he's like, I just have this dream all the time. It's some student, I don't know who it is, but he wears a red hat. He goes, and he's walking through the quad, and I just deck him into the fountain. And like, that's another one that comes to mind that was just phenomenal.
I long stride him into the fountain.
Yep, exactly. Cut tackle.
Cut tackle.
The funny thing is he's always like, I remember he brought that same thing up. He goes, you guys ever, like, randomly in film, you guys ever just think about stroking a kid into the fountain out there?
Yep. Oh man, yeah. One time last fall, we were on the bench doing the walkthrough before a game, and we're sitting there, and I forget what we were talking about. Some play or something. He just walks up and he's like, I know all you think I'm old, but I would kick your asses in a bar fight. And he just walks away, like, no context. It was just all that little stuff where he just comes in and says all this. I mean, nothing's better than that. Those are some of my best memories from college.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. That's where the Wildly Average tagline comes from, actually, is when he would go through his hit sheets before like the beginning of the week, and it would be like he would go through all the different positions, and he'd be like, O-line, poor feet, wildly average, going over to the quarterback, terrible. Go through just wildly average.
I love it. I love it.
Get up all day, but Coach K, man, I think back to those speeches, and like just that guy's culture that he brings is just one of the more unique things ever, and I just love that about St. Thomas culture, and hope that sticks as they head to D1 here. And I want SimBull, and my final pitch to you to help expedite getting college football teams on board is, I would challenge you to go to a like a data, like a statistics class in high school, like find like a class of young high schoolers who could chop up data for you and get you good ISO prices for all these different teams. Like if you could find a way to teach kids how to evaluate, like properly evaluate a sports team, like you've done with all these others, I feel like there's a way you could teach that to like a sports management class in college. You could teach that to some sort of data analytics nerd in like the actuary department at St. Thomas.
Yep.
You could take that to high school and go with your AP stats class. Like there's got to be a way to like outsource and like help you guys kind of speed up at a low cost because it's education.
Yeah, I will say you're referring to actuary nerds at St. Thomas. That's actually my co-founder, KJ, was an actuary nerd at St. Thomas. So he loves that stuff. And yeah, we've talked about it. It could be a great education piece just to kind of teach high schoolers and have them help us with data and all that stuff, just how the stock market works in simple terms.
Right. And the reason why we need to get this really expedited is I need to ride my alma mater on Sim, and I know they're going to be low as fuck in the FCS.
Yeah, especially with
buy now.
Yeah, with UNI on their schedule for next year, it'll. I'm looking forward to it, man. I think the culture is going to shock a lot of people. We may not be the most talented, but that's going to be there. So I'm waiting for them to bring it. I'm excited.
We're going to out-prepare them. We're going to out-coach them. We're going to out-culture them. And we're going to, I don't know. I think we might as well say we're going to beat UNI, like with W on the schedule.
I think so. I'm expecting big things this year and would expect nothing less from that program. So.
That's incredible,
Love
man.
That, man.
Yep. And so he challenged you to, use the youth of America to help you with your data analytics. But I'd love for you to challenge us to grow inside the Patton Fitzpatrick brand and who you are, because how we grow Backpocket is just that consistent funnel of the next person inside the circle, this hub and spoke model that we use. Is there anyone that you want to see on the show that you challenge us? It could be some lofty goal. It could be a great friend. We're just curious for a challenge.
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to get my co-founder KJ on. He's a lot smarter than me. He's a math wizard, and all these number stuff that Deck you could get into with him. He's going to know all those answers a lot better than me. So I think it'd be pretty easy to do. He'd be happy to do it, and let's get him on here, and he can talk a little more in depth about how the market works and all the stuff behind it.
Love it, man. Absolutely, challenge accepted. And then to kind of finish off, I know you're a big Backpocket marketing intern, and you've been with us for a long time. So I'd just like to open the doors up. We've been peppering you with questions all day. I wondered if you had any questions for us.
Oh man. I got to think a little bit. Questions for you guys. What's your all-time favorite episode, each of you? Because I don't know if they'll be the same or not, but just kind of going nostalgic on you guys. What's the favorite one you did, whether that's an interview, whether the person who was on was just a phenomenal talker? What do you guys think? What's your favorite episode you've done?
God, that's a great question. Now that we're 300 and I think you're the 303rd one or 304th one. God, there's so many good ones. And we were talking about this on someone else's podcast the other day, the Suave podcast, a friend of ours who's a student at St. Thomas. And the way that we go about guest acquisition is we have like the 3 tiers of people. We have, our friends, and just that we just want to, catch up on, document their story, see how they're doing. Then we have people such as yourself who are friends, but they're doing something and they're on the cusp of something special. And we have them like early in their creation. And then there is, like the Chad Greenways of the world and the famous Daves, like these big names that kind of just give the brand a little bit more credibility. And I got to unpack that. Deck, you got any off the top of mind?
Yeah, I think just with who's going to be listening to this podcast with sports heads, St. Thomas alums, of people alike. One of my favorite episodes that we've ever done is obviously the Coach K episode. But another one that comes to mind is the Coach John Tower podcast. And he is, for people who don't know who he is the St. Thomas basketball coach. And if there's one sport at St. Thomas that's going to amplify in D1 right away. I think it's St. Thomas basketball, but like his podcast was amazing just because he's a professor of psychology and he studies intrinsic motivation. And like, it was by far the easiest podcast we've ever had to ever recorded, because it was like, you asked him one question, he would go on for 10 minutes so eloquently and beautifully on just all these different amazing stuff. And it's just a great timeless podcast. That episode is episode 217, Coach John Tower. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I'm going to follow your suit with like the St. Thomas feel. The first one being Iowa Dua, him coming on for the first time, and he brought in a bottle of whiskey, and I think we finished the bottle during the podcast. I want to say it wasn't a super long podcast, but it was one of those that we just went on about a bunch of different things. For those of you who don't know, Iowa's a couple years older than Declan and I. We missed him on the football field, but he was one of the best St. Thomas football players in the program history. And, you know, he's just shitting on us the whole time, and just for being these knuckleheads doing this podcast. And he's like, well, I never really knew what you guys are doing, but I always see this thing. And it was just really cool to like rehash, to see how, you know, people older than us are looking at this podcast that we've created. And, you know, at the earliest days and still to this day, we're built on the St. Thomas football program. You know, our guest acquisition model is strictly old alumni that we love or appreciated, and then current players and such as yourself, previous players. But Iowa is a good one, just kind of get a full compass of like what we're up to. What episode was that? I think it was 200 and
episode 230. He comes on twice, which is kind of crazy. Talk about like documenting. It's like we got to really shoot the shit with them. Lighthearted conversation, episode 230. And then he came on episode 266 and our most downloaded podcast last year. And that happened he came on less than a week after George Floyd was murdered. And him and his buddy Aaron talked for 3 hours and 11 minutes. And we're looking at it right here on just like what it's like to be a black guy in America. And it was probably one of the more special podcasts we've ever done. That one's episode 266. But I think what you're realizing here, Patton, is we really don't have a favorite episode. Just love the podcast in general.
Yep.
And are just trying to do our best to tailor what we think would be a phenomenal podcast for the people who are tuning in right now.
For sure. Yeah. And I love that, man. You guys cover a wide range of people, which is awesome because it caters to a lot of different people with different beliefs and different views. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the same message hits home about, you know, being average guys, but making something of ourselves. And I love that.
Yeah. I'll flip the question back on you. I know you've been listening for a while. What's your favorite episode that we've done?
I love the Coach Caruso interview, and the Coach K one was phenomenal too. How you guys started that off with talking about a zombie apocalypse, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you know, the Coach Caruso one was just awesome because I don't know, I have so much respect for the guy, and I think he's the greatest coach in the world. And just kind of getting to hear you guys sit down with him and ask him questions that we were all wondering, it's cool to listen to.
Love that. I think we're due for another episode with him. Honestly, it's been quite some time, and I don't think I will be near as nervous going in on a second interview with him at this point as nervous as we were on that first episode. And we used to ask the average quality, like we just asked you the average quality probably 10 minutes ago, 10-15, which is like on the back end. We used to ask average quality as the first question. And we did that with Coach Caruso, and he didn't answer the question and flipped it back on us. He was like, what do you guys think my average quality is? And like having him as a coach for 4 years, having to like literally go deep into like what we think he's average at was an experience.
Yeah, I told him that his average quality is his approachability, because sometimes I can go up and talk to him, but other times I'm like, fuck that. I'm nervous.
Right.
Like you know, he's gonna like expect the most out of you, so you have to like there's expectations to it. And then Deck flips it and he goes, all right, Andy's serious over here, you know, with his approachability. I'm gonna take it more lighthearted. I'm gonna say your shoe game. We can improve your shoes. And then he recommended, what were the shoes, Deck, that you told him he should buy?
I told him to get the Nike Air Monarchs, which are like the most dad shoes.
And then
it's
lo
like,
and
you gotta
behold,
get him right.
4 months later, he texts us and he goes, "Are these the shoes?" And
Oh
and
my
we
God.
said yes. And then he's like, "I think I'm gonna get them in black." And he got those shoes.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I would have been nervous too, man. If you would have asked me that, I would have been like nothing because I just wouldn't know what to say. But
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, well, right on, man. I love that. And we'll finish off with this. I mean, it's been a phenomenal podcast. We're just big SimBull riders now. If you are in any way looking to have a fucking blast and fly the W a little bit in the sports world, definitely go to simbull.app/backpocket. We'll have that link in the show notes of this podcast. So anyone that wants to join, they can click on that right away. But yeah, we'll finish off with this, man. It's been a great podcast. Staying present with it. So from the time you woke up today to the time we're recording now, which is 8:18 Eastern time on February 25th. Patton, what did you learn today?
I'm going to stick with the last hour or so. I learned that, and I knew some of this, but I learned that 3 average guys can do a lot. Like you guys building the back pocket and getting, like you said, episode 303, which is incredible. Most podcasts blow out right away, and you guys have been able to keep it going and pushing your brand and doing a phenomenal job, not only with the pod, but on social media and, with what I'm doing with SimBull and everything that we're doing. It's like, it doesn't take much. It's just a little bit of hard work and something you believe in and have passion in. And at the end of the day, that's all the motivation you need to keep going. So it's just wherever you are, whether you're feeling down or up or, you're not sure where you're headed in life, just find your passion and go after it. No one's going to do it for you. So.
Amen.
Love that, dude. No one's going to do it for you. I totally agree with that.
That's just a killer way to end it. Thank you, Patton. I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and continuing this connection because you're up to something special. We able to document where you're at now. I'm excited to see where you're at in 5 years. Just incredible stuff.
Same here, guys. Can't wait to see where the BP's at in 5 years and keep doing your thing. I appreciate you guys having me on. It was a total blast and looking forward to many more episodes.
Absolutely, brother. Up and to the right.